Innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity, not a threat, said by Steve Jobs. Here's a warm and a hearty welcome to you all. I am Afrin Fatima, pursuing my third semester MBA at Iasms. As management graduates, we all have a pandemic. What would be the future job market conditions? How can we gear up for the future? To share with us some insights, today we have with us an industry veteran and a successful entrepreneur, Mr. D. Muralidhar. To give you a brief introduction about the resource person, Sir has a BSc degree from St. Joseph College, Bangalore, Chartered Accountant, Management Accountant from Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, MBA from IIM Bangalore, Cost and Management Accountant from London. Mr. Muralidhar is a whole-time director in SNAM group of companies with 5 manufacturing facilities and a standalone world-class R&D center in India and a manufacturing facility in Vietnam and China. He has various honorary positions such as past member of Board of Governors, IIM Bangalore, past member, State Planning Board, Government of Karnataka, Bangalore, past president, Federation of Karnataka, Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Bangalore, chairman of Business Research Cell of FKCCI, Bangalore, president, Abrasives Manufacturers Association of India, Chennai, regularly contribute articles to newspapers and comments on TV, columnist for leading Kannada newspaper covering subjects relating to business and macroeconomics. Mr. Muralidhar is also a philanthropist and is a chief patron of a hostel which provides stay and food for girls pursuing their higher education in Bangalore. He has received several awards, to name a few: Distinguished Alumni Award from IIM Bangalore, awarded the best firm in Hosur by Tamil Nadu government, and also won several exports awards. We are extremely happy that we have Sir as our resource person for today's session. May I now request our director, Dr. Srinidhi K. Parthasathi, to formally welcome our speaker. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Afrin. It's an absolute privilege and pleasure to have Mr. Muralidhar on this session today. Welcome to you, sir. One thing, Afrin, he is our own person. He is in the governing council of our IASMS governing council. He is a member of the governing council. And job opportunities after COVID is going to call for a different hat to be worn. And a man who has lived many business cycles, who has gained the wisdom quotient living in the business industry, serving in many boards, serving across industries, both in manufacturing and service, and also across the globe. I think this is the experience what has to go into the MBA students today. We are absolutely delighted, sir, that you are with us today, and we would definitely gain a lot from your rich experience. The stage is yours, sir. Thank you so much.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you, Dr. Srinidhi, for that excellent introduction. And Afrin, you did a great job. And sometimes I feel whether was I the person whom you told and talked about. And then Dr. Reena, you're very persuasive, and you did not give up till such time I was back to your institution to do this talk about job opportunities post-COVID, or job opportunities right now. Well, this is a very challenging subject, and I have tried and attempted to put together some points for the benefit of the students about this job opportunities for the outgoing MBA students of our institute. Well, you know, there has been a all-around despondency due to the COVID and the impact of COVID on the business and the consequent impact of the job opportunities for MBA students. Well, my understanding is that in our institute, I take the privilege to call it our institute because I am also on your governing council, is that almost 25 to 30% of the students are wanting to become entrepreneurs, and the rest of the people are looking out for jobs. Okay. Now, either you want to be an entrepreneur or you are looking for a job. There seems to be a kind of a despondency all around due to this COVID. But I would like to start my small talk with a positive note. Well, I've just noted down some points which I would like to share. We have seen the latest drop in GDP for the country by about 23.5% for the first quarter. And, you know, the other negative geopolitical and economic developments across the world. However, there are many positive points which all of us should take note of, which any student or any entrepreneur should look at in a positive way. The some of the macroeconomic indicators of the country, which is heartening, is the following. One is the foreign exchange reserves of India is more than $520 billion. We are the third largest foreign exchange reserve holder in the world. That's really heartening. It was not long ago, in our memories, especially for people from my age group, India was struggling to pay off its foreign exchange debts, and it went to the extent of pledging the gold during Chandrasekhar's time, and we have come a long distance that we have $520 billion. It's close to $500 billion foreign exchange reserves. Excellent monsoon. You know, everyone who's studied 101 of economics knows that still about 45% to 46% of our Indian population depends on workers depend on agriculture, and our Indian agriculture is driven mostly by monsoons. And this year the monsoon has been pretty good, and we can expect a bumper crop. So that could trigger a lot of demand from the Tier 3 and Tier 4 cities. India is enjoying one of the highest levels of foreign direct investment from many other countries. So, you know, capital is always scarce, and any amount of money that comes from within the country and outside the country is always welcome for capital formation and subsequent demand generation in the country. So the FDI, foreign direct investments, I think we are one of the biggest FDI destinations in the world today. The crude oil, which is a major constituent of the Indian economic scene, is still hovering around $40 to $50 per barrel, which is a good augury for the Indian economy, because this puts a lot of money in the pocket of the government, and in turn the government can spend this money on so many projects, and it can use it for infrastructure development, and it can certainly use this money during this COVID problem for shortfall of revenues. So that's a good thing. You just imagine when for long years the crude oil was hovering around $100, and now it is only between $40 to $50, and it is likely to go down further. The bank consumer credit has shown a marked improvement in the last 4 weeks. That means people have gone back to the banks, started borrowing the money for consumer credits. So maybe it is vehicles, or maybe it is real estate, or maybe it is durables. So there is a positive aspect of this, because this will trigger the demand, and this will trigger the business cycles. The after GST regime came into India for the last about 30 to 36 months, we have what is called as e-passes. Means anybody who has to send money from one part of the country to the other part of the country has to issue a pass. It is called as e-pass. So the number of e-passes generated is monitored on a day-to-day basis because it is done electronically. So people, I mean, the government is able to know how much of e-passes are being issued every day. It is heartening to know the number of e-passes issued in this September month, in the first 9 to 10 days, is crossed the number of e-passes issued last year in September. And the freight loading also has been high for the railways. So that's a very good indication that the economy is slowly coming back to normalcy. The power consumption, which is also a very, very good indicator of the economic situation, is coming back almost about 95% of the pre-COVID levels. You know, the power is such an indicator of the economic development of the country. People have been able to correlate the nighttime illumination of a country which is taken from a satellite and compare it with the similar kind of illumination 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they have found that they could easily relate these two and extrapolate it to the GDP growth. So power consumption is, especially in a country like India, is a very critical factor to determine which way the economy is going. And we are going we are about 95% of the pre-COVID level consumption, and that's a good indicator. The rupee exchange rate, which had taken a beating in the initial stages of COVID, now we see that the exchange rate is coming back. Rupee is becoming a little stronger. We are almost, we started at about 72. We went up to 76 per dollar. Now we are coming to 73.4, 73.5, and it came down to 72.9 also. So it's a good augury showing that Indian economy is being trusted by people. The stock markets, which is another barometer of the economic activity and which also factors in the future earnings of the and the future growth of the country, is at the pre-COVID levels, which nobody thought it would reach. So that's another indicator that Indian economy is doing well. Interest rates, we have never seen such lowest interest rates in our country in the last 20-25 years. So that's a good indicator for people to borrow money and restart their businesses using the low interest rates. However, I have a caveat here. Though Indian interest rates are lower than what they were, our interest rates in absolute terms are one of the highest in the world. Especially if you look at the G20 countries, we still continue to be one of the highest interest rate country in the world. So that is one of the basic problems for very fast growth. One of the economists pointed out, if the interest rates come down in the country to comparable levels to advanced countries, G20 countries, our GDP can get a boost of 1% directly from the interest rate itself. So, however, relatively we are lower compared to what we were about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So the entrepreneurs in the country or people who want to borrow money for real estate or anything, they are happier lot and they will go back and borrow money. One more basic indicator is that I'll make a statement that which will surprise many people, but it seems to be coming true, is that in the next 15 years, India will generate as much of wealth as it has generated in the last 70 plus years. Please mark my words. India will generate wealth in the next 10 to 15 years as much of wealth India has generated in the last 75 years. This means that there is a tremendous amount of potential opportunity available for businesses, and people who depend on business, business schools, business students to draw their own conclusions and be a part of this prosperity and growth. So there is no need to be despondent about the present situation. If people have been following the economy, and I hope that most of the students who are hearing this talk do read regularly magazines or papers, newspapers on economy, business papers like Economic Times or Mint or Business Standard. If you're not doing that, I strongly advocate that anybody who is interested in a career in business related areas, you must do a reading of these newspapers to keep you abreast of what is happening and what is the future for your own area of interest. So the Mint, which is one of the business papers, did a survey of 100 CEOs, Mint with Bain Consultants, and they came out yesterday. If you are interested, you should go back to yesterday. Mint's one full page, 2 pages of survey is there. It's startling information it throws out, and it says that from next year onwards, our growth rates will pick up, and there is no need to be despondent, and we'll come back to about 6.5% to 7% growth from the next year onwards. The unemployment rate, which is a very critical factor, which we are talking about today, has dropped from 24% in May to hardly about 5 to 6% by September. That means people are going back to job, economic activity is picking up, and a huge boost has come in terms of a gig economy, where most of the companies want to hire people not on a permanent basis, on a temporary basis, on a need-based employment. So this is attracting a huge improvement in gig economy numbers. Here, I wanted you to take a look at the newspapers. I also want you to listen to one of the my favorite economist come marketing professor, who is a professor in the New York University, New York University. His name is Scott Gallo. I think some of you would have already heard his talks on the YouTube. There, recently he talked about how COVID is influencing the society, markets, and business. Well, it's about a 25 minutes talk on YouTube. Scott Gallo, SCOTTGALLOW. Scott Gallo, I think you must Google him and hear to him because he talks about how the business is getting transformed during COVID. He makes one very interesting statement. He calls it as decades to weeks. What he means is the changes which took decades to happen before COVID, it is happening in weeks. See, online ordering of groceries had reached a level of about 8% to 10% in the first 10 years after this whole thing started. It took 10 years to reach 10% of the total market. During COVID, it has reached to about 18 to 19% in just about 6 to 8 weeks. So what has taken decades to change, to happen, it has just happened in weeks. So that has been the effect of COVID on the businesses and the processes, business processes. So it's a very interesting analysis he makes. Of course, he's very dramatic sometimes, so you can remove the grain from the shaft and try to get the gist of what he's talking. He makes a lot of sense, and he's been a successful entrepreneur. So I request some of you who want to know about this, can Google him and see his talk in YouTube. So this is the present situation. Now I will just talk to you about which is the core of our today's discussion is the exploring the job opportunities or the new job opportunities in this COVID and post-COVID situation. Well, I tried to spend some time and list out some of the sectors where there has been a double-digit growth. There has been a double-digit growth in the last 8 to 10 weeks. Like Scott Gallo talks about the acceleration of growth in some of the sectors. If the sectors grow fast, they are the sectors where employment generation is possible, where people are looking for jobs and the enterprise is looking for new recruits in these areas. So if you'll be surprised that most of these are in the area of services only. Of course, there are 1 or 2 areas where there is manufacturing. So I have listed 16 sectors where the growth has been unprecedented in the last 8 to 10 weeks or 5 to 6 months after the COVID has impacted India. So I will run through first all the list, and depending on the time available and how much time I have, we can go into each and every sector in a brief way and talk about it. And then later on, I will take some of your questions if there is a time. The sectors where I have just listed the sectors where there has been a more than double-digit growth only in the last 8 months due to 6 months or 5 months due to COVID. E-commerce is the first one. Healthcare, second one. Robotics, third one. Insurance, fourth. Logistics, sixth. Cybersecurity, seventh. Content, both digital, print and subscriptions. Private banks, telecom industry, fast moving consumer goods, FMCG, education tech, online education, online gaming, OTT, software as service, SaaS, managed office space, pharmacy and labs. These 16 sectors, I could have probably, some other sectors also could be there, but I listed this 16 sector because these were very, look to be very important and prominent, which lend themselves for a big time employment. Well, e-commerce sector, was only about $40 billion in 2018. And it is expected to go to 84 billion by the 2021. People who have been tracking the developments in the Indian e-commerce, you will know the way Reliance has taken over some of the company, and how a lot of investments are coming for e-commerce businesses in India. And sorry. So this is a huge potential sector for growth. Reena, how much time I have? How much more time I have? You're muted.
Hello, you can
Yes,
hear
Reena.
me, sir?
How much
We are
more
winding
time?
up by 11, sir.
You're winding by 11. How much time you will leave for question answers, and how much time I have
10
for my
minutes, sir. Question answers, 10 minutes.
So it's 10:25. Another 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yes,
Huh?
sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So e-commerce, as I said, is one of the prominent sectors where you can see a tremendous amount of growth in the next couple of years, and with 5G likely to come, and the penetration of internet and smartphones into the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, e-commerce is a booming sector, and all people related with e-commerce will gain, will have opportunities. Healthcare. You know, I mean, healthcare during COVID is such a critical thing, and it has grown almost by 17% in the last 6 months. It's $160 billion in the 17-18, and it is likely to go to $372 billion by 21-22. It's almost 2.5 times. So there is a huge potential for growth in healthcare and the related activities. Insurance. You know, the awareness of insurance during, this is connected with health, this is connected with other issues impacted by COVID. So the people have started looking at insurance very seriously. So the insurance sector is also got a 15% growth this year, and it is likely to continue to grow even higher levels. So you can expect that market of insurance will be $280 billion by 2020. Logistics. Well, you know, logistics is connected with e-commerce. Logistics is connected with food delivery. Logistics is connected with FMCG delivery. So many areas logistics is connected, and logistics will grow by more than double in the grew by more than double this 6 months, and it is likely to be a $215 billion industry by 2020. Cyber security. This will be about $3 billion by 2022. The growth rate is about 16% in the last 6 months. Content writing, both digital, print, and subscription. Well, nobody thought that this content writing would be such a huge industry. You'll be surprised that the size of the industry is 34 billion by 2022. This is what is expected. So people who have the flair for this kind of activity must look at this very seriously. The private banks are growing at almost 20%. So there is a shift from public sector banks to private sector banks. There's a marked shift because the profitability of the private sector banks is much higher. The market cap of private banks is much higher. You know, the top private sector bank, HDFC Bank, its market capitalization is many number of times more than the biggest public sector bank, which is SBI, market cap wise. So there is over a period of time, it's my prediction is slowly the private sector banks will take over sufficient amount of space from the public sector banks, and the job opportunities in all areas connected with private sector bank and financial tech as an offspring will have a tremendous amount of growth. Telecom industry. Well, it's I just talked about when we talked about the e-commerce sector. That's telecom industry, which now we are at 4G. We are expected to get to 5G maybe next year, and the penetration and the price at which the smartphones are being sold and the penetration of smartphones into the rural areas is a huge industry by itself. And though there were some hiccups for the telecom industry due to the Supreme Court decisions on revenue share, I think this will be $100 billion industry by 2022. So this also has a huge potential for business and potential for jobs. FMCG, this has grown, believe me, at about 30% during the last 9 months to 1 year. This is one of the highest, and this is also going to touch $100 billion by 2022. So education tech, whoever thought that technology in education would get so much of importance, and this disruptive change that is taking place. If you hear to Scott Gallow's talk, he says that 40% of the universities in US will be shut down in the next 2 years, because he says that why would any student go to a university, stay there and study and pay so much money unless there is a brand value, unless there is something for him to take home. You can learn everything online. So education tech will be a huge thing, and people who want to get into this either as a business or as a part of the industry, I think it's a good way to go. OTT. Well, OTT, youngsters are more aware of this OTT than a person of my age. But however, tracking the industry, I find that there is a tremendous growth potential, and there is almost a 20% growth that is happening, and it is likely to go up. And OTT will be about $180 billion by 2023. Online gaming, oh my God, the growth rates have been 50%, close to 50% online gaming. So how and where an MBA student fits there, I really don't know. I think you have to figure out, but this industry is growing tremendously. The job opportunities will grow. So be prepared for the gaming industry. SaaS, software as service. Similarly, this is connected with digital transformation that is taking place across the world. And during COVID, the digital transformation has been so fast. People who are hesitant to even think about digital transformation, so they are doing it. So software as service, the part of that. And this, because India continues to be a low cost country for development of service and software, and this is the cost leverage that many people can take advantage of, and there is going to be a huge growth in this industry. And presently they are growing at about 25%, and you can expect that much further growth. It's a $3.5 billion industry by 21-22. Managed office space. Well, there is one sharing of office space and managing of office space, and many things are happening. People, all startups or many businesses, they do not want to have their own office space and go through and spend their energies in maintaining the offices, taking care of the offices. So there is a new set of business that has come up in the recent past, and that's going to be close to about 20 billion by the next couple of years, where offices will be built, given to tenants, where the tenant will just go there and occupy the space and use it, and nothing he has to do for maintenance or every aspect of it, power, internet connections, everything will be maintained and managed by somebody else. You have to just go and plug and play system. So this is going to be a huge business, and they expect it to be about 18 to 20 billion by next year. Pharmacy and labs. There is a 10% growth, and it's going to be a $100 billion industry by 2025. So these are the areas where I just thought quickly about 16 areas where we can look at and focus our energies. When you get out of your program, MBA program, you may not be really ready for that, some of these sectors, because in a conventional MBA program, you learn some functional aspects of marketing, production, planning, and then financial management and other things. These are the basic bedrock for any business. However, the domain knowledge required for you to get into some business requires a little bit of reskilling of your own knowledge, so that you can get into some of the areas. Just to talk about the reskilling, I just want to make a couple of points. Is that you should also have, because there's so much of fungibility between e-commerce and telecom and SaaS and so many industries, logistics. So interdisciplinary knowledge would be a great advantage, because you become a specialist in a very narrow area, and then your opportunity to get into many areas and work would get reduced. So interdisciplinary movements and interdisciplinary knowledge is extremely important. So I don't know how many of you were how many of you have heard the last couple of days news about the fifth generation warfare that is being attempted by China against most of its adversaries. You know, which fifth generation really means is using the technology and other non-personal things to attack a country. Why I'm talking about that in this today's talk is that the conventional activity like war, which has moved from first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation, and fifth generation, the concept of education, the concept of knowledge, the concept of jobs is also moving from generation to generation. And we are seeing, I will call this, whatever is happening during the COVID will be the fifth generation job situation for us, because you have to look at a lot of areas which conventionally people do not talk about, but they are the biggest growth centers for the time to come. But how do we do this? Say that yes, these are the areas where there are opportunities, but your knowledge, your background may not support many of these things. So my strong advice would be that please do not expect to land a attractive job immediately after your graduation. Even if you get a good opening with a very low compensation, but the right area of work which holds a high level of potential growth, that is where you should get in and learn your basics, and then you grow with the system. Because what is taught in a business program is basics, and what is required for a job situation is slightly different. Well, this gap has been there since 40 years. When I did my IIM 40 years ago, and even now, when we completed the IIM, I went to the job, a lot of difference what we were expected to do and what we learned, and this is going to happen. So you should not be really worried about how much compensation you get and how much kind of your friend gets. Are you getting better job, better salary? No. Tracking our own friends over the last 40 years, whoever started with the best job, supposed to be best job, for a period of 30-40 years, they didn't do as well as people who started in an obscure job and obscure area, but over a period of 30 years, they did an extremely good career path they had. So the first job's attraction need not be what determines your choice. So your choice of job should be where you can do a tremendous amount of interdisciplinary learning, lot of interaction with the markets, lot of interaction with the public. Such is the job you should look at. And even if you don't get desired compensation, you should take a job where you will learn a lot of things and consider that as an extension of your MBA program. So this is the way you should look at it. And then, I just want to stop here because it's about 40 minutes I've taken. Just to support my statement. You know, one wise man said that education just tells you how much you don't know, not that how much you know. So when you go through any education, you will realize that you don't know so many things. So with that note, I'd like to close this small talk of mine, and I hope this will be useful to many of the students in the college. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And I think that more than the learning for students, it has been tremendous learning for me as well, sir, because this brief talk that you gave, you started with the positive aspects of our economy and its growth and the huge potential that it can possibly create for employment generation. You explained the 16 service sectors where students could expect job openings. And you concluded with a very, very relevant statement, which is job skilling. Skill is something which our students should definitely give a serious thought on so that they would be employable and start something on their own. So it's been a tremendous learning opportunity. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
No,
We
thank
just
you.
have, yeah.
No, I missed my golf game today with Som. So Som is playing golf and he made me come and talk to you here.
Okay, but it was a pleasure listening to you, sir, and tremendous learning. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We have few questions, sir, from the students
No problem. Please
in the
go ahead.
chat box. Yeah. The first question is, sir, about the pandemic creating huge job losses. And do you believe that conditions will be normal, profitability would be normal?
Well, I would see, if I give my opinion, yes, I can tell you my opinion. I would strongly urge, go to the library, pick up yesterday's Mint paper, which carries a survey of 100 top CEOs of this country, which employs more than 10 million people. They have given their opinion about many factors of economy, jobs, what is the future. That gives a very clear picture. But however, I'm an optimist. So I feel that COVID is a passing phase, and
Yes.
it has changed. There is a paradigm shift in how the businesses are going to be run. But certainly there is a tremendous amount of scope for India. I flagged those issues in the beginning of my talk. So I think people who are going to be coming out of the business schools, they don't have to feel despondent. I think there's a tremendous amount of scope available. But only thing is, you need a little patience, and you have to do some reskilling, and you have to accept any assignment comes your way in the line or your domain of interest. Doesn't matter how much compensation you get paid. It does not matter at all. But you could get onto a very fast growth if you go into an area where the industry itself is growing fast.
I think you have already answered the second question, sir. The second question was, what is the reasonable salary range that you can expect if you enter banking sector?
No, I don't want to guess anything, because this is a very, depends on the company and depends on the competence of the boy, of the student, and what kind of job. I would not place any importance. I tell you, I will not place any importance on the compensation you would get in your first job. You must choose a job of your interest, where you want to be there. You will look at which are the sectors. I gave you 16 sectors. Please go and do your own homework. Get into a sector which matches your own interest. Get into a sector where growth rates are very high, and then you will be on a fast track. And before you realize that, you will be doing extremely well. Don't even think about how much salary you will be paid in the first job.
Yeah, thank you, sir. One more question, sir. What is the highest priority of the business and government during this pandemic situation?
Well, there is what is called as one, concept in our Hindu philosophy, Dharma Sankata. I don't know people, yeah. You see, Dharma Sankata means you are between the devil and the deep sea. Which do you select? Lives, livelihood, or lifestyles. You know, it has moved from lives to livelihoods, and now we are moving to lifestyles. See, conspicuous consumption items are also getting attention now. They are also getting sold now. In the initial stages of COVID, it was lives. People, everybody was focusing on how to save life, how to postpone this, the impact of COVID. And now everybody has accepted this. So I think there is no history for the governments or the bureaucrats to fall back upon. So everybody was going through a learning curve. Some of them have made mistakes. It does not matter. But ultimately, if you learn things from this COVID, it's a good thing. And for the government also, they have learned a lot of things and they are moving in the right direction. And we must always have a very positive towards the future and optimistic. Don't hear to negative things, pessimistic outlooks. It will depress you. Don't do that, because your tomorrow and next year is going to be very good. And one thing is, India is on a fast track. Maybe, you know, during this growth of India, there may be some hiccups, like we have the potholes in our Bangalore roads here and there. You slow down to maneuver those potholes, but ultimately what happens is you come out a winner.
There's one last question, so it's more of a personal question. Considering all the people you've met in your field, what would be the personal attributes of being successful?
It's a very question where different people come up with different answers. You know, success is a long journey. The path to success has never been easy for anybody. Path to success has never been easy for anybody. Whether you are successful in this century or the previous century or even the previous century, it is always a tough ride. So some basic principles successful people have inculcated in their own livelihood is being very disciplined, very prudent, and being hardworking and honest. I strongly suggest that there is a book, I don't know, I can't remember the name of the book, which you should read. Somebody compiled the attributes of 10 first generation entrepreneurs who have made it big. Not the present generation. I'm talking about 15 years ago. They talked to the first generation entrepreneurs who were very successful, and they had tracked their stories, and they had put a gist of what has been their specific attributes and how they achieved their success. I think it will be an excellent reading, and because one person's opinion could be a little subjective, but when there are commonalities with 10 or 15 people's success stories, you will think that basically these things should be required for success.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so that's the last question. And once again, sir, thank you so much for the immense knowledge that you have shared, your time and your efforts, sir. And you've already given us the homework, which is going to YouTube and Scott Gallo's Decades to Weeks, listening to that particular speech about him. And I'm sure I will tell the students also, and tomorrow's class, they will have to come and share in class what is the learning from the video. So thanks. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Insist them to read the
Yes.
Yesterday's Mint, which gives a lot of information about what the CEOs of our country think, which is an indicator of what is going to come. But my own personal view is that there is nothing to worry about. We are just something slowdown has happened, that it will change. That's all.
The positivity is very good about it.
Yes. It is 100%. You have to be positive. No doubt.
Yes. So over to Afreen for the formal vote of thanks.
It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of Iasms department and the staff members, extend a very hearty vote of thanks. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Mr. D. Muralidhar for the knowledge that he has shared with us. Thank you for your advice, sir. It was very helpful and wise. The way you explained the topic was exemplary. I also wish to express my gratitude to our director, Dr. Srinidhi K. Parthasathy, for providing encouragement and support. I am very grateful to our HOD, Dr. Reena Sham, for giving us an opportunity to organize this webinar. As no program can become successful with a single person, so I extend my big thanks to our Iasms department for their support and all the third semester students too. Thank you guys for making this event successful with your contribution. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.